All right, someone asked me to do a brief tutorial about just a simple little PT pattern I like to tie. That's been pretty productive for me, actually pretty much everywhere I've ever fished. So here's the hook I like to use. It's a Firehole size 14, 3/16. It's a good little hook for any kind of like small nymph or scud or something like that. And I'll be using a 3.2 millimeter gold bead. Small gold wire, brassy wire works good for this. This little pattern is awesome if you're nymph fishing and use this as a dropper. It tends to work better for me on overcast days for whatever reason. I don't know, it just seems to slay on overcast. So I like to put it in the vise at kind of an angle like that because it lets me wrap the thread around the bend a little bit to get the pheasant tail to point down a little more. Come on, vise. Also makes it harder to secure your vise. So you want to get a good number of thread wraps in here just to secure that bead and keep it from sliding around. And then I really don't stack much thread on there to make a taper or anything like that. Want to come just around the bend so it kind of gets that little curve into the shape of the body. Then just select like 4 or 5 fibers from pheasant tail, and I usually make the tail like, you know, half the length or maybe 2/3 the length of the entire pattern. Just pinch that off, tie it in. I usually make one wrap and kind of adjust it to the length I want. Secure it. And I'm just going to wrap it forward, all the way forward. And this is kind of where I get the shape of the body from, honestly. Just going to secure this to the hook. Oops. I know this is probably not the way most people tie these, but not really anybody teach me how to tie one, so this is the way I do it. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my gold wire and tuck it up into the bead. And secure that wire, wrap all the way back to the tail again. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I'm actually tying a flashback here, so I just use some like Danville mylar tinsel to make the flashback. It's something similar to like what you'd use on a Rainbow Warrior. All right, then I wrap back forward, get my pheasant tail, and I try to keep it aligned with the spine just to make sure the body of this fly has kind of a uniform thickness. Sometimes I build a taper, I'll make it kind of cone shaped, but I haven't noticed much of a difference, honestly. Wrap all the way back forward. Now you want to wrap your pheasant tail around the shank of the hook and make the body. This is such a quick and easy pattern to tie. You can crank a bunch of these out really quick and they work great. And I know some people, you know, would say, oh, it's not a pheasant tail. Pheasant tail has the legs and all that. I've never done that. I just throw some dubbing on there to make the thorax and then brush it out, and those are good enough legs for me. All right, clip off the excess. Now I like to wrap the wire the opposite direction I wrapped the pheasant tail. I feel like it gives a little durability and kind of pins that pheasant tail down, so if a tooth catches a strand and cuts it or something, the whole thing doesn't blow up and unwind on you. Makes it good for more than one fish, that's for sure. All right, let's bring your wire to the top, secure the wire. Just gonna helicopter it off. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take my flashback material, which, like I said, this Danville Mylar tinsel is what I like to use. I'm gonna secure that right on the spine of the hook so that I can get that ready to go after I make the thorax. And you can see kind of the positioning is maybe just a third of the way down the body is where I want to make sure I'm starting that thorax. A third of the way back from the bead, let's say. And then I actually grab a pretty decent chunk, you know, more than you would typically, you know, for a dry fly or something. A pretty good chunk of dubbing here to make a nice thick body that I can brush out and make it look real buggy and kind of give it the appearance of legs hanging off this little fly. And then, you know, you don't need to make it that pretty. I'm just gonna slop this on here pretty much. There you go. Flop over the tinsel and secure that, and that's your flash back. Give it a little bit of extra flash in the water, just 3 wraps or 4 wraps, whatever. Probably only 2 is really needed. Snip that off. Then we're gonna go ahead and whip finish. Third one to grow on, why not? Clip that off as close as you can. And then I always like to add just a little drop of Solaris to keep this thing from blowing up and unwinding on me. Solaris, whatever it is. And I'll go ahead and brush out some dubbing here to make some legs. Wire brush or just, you know, a little nylon brush will do just fine. Wire brush actually causes some issues. It breaks the thread sometimes, will make it unwind on you when you're brushing it. So I like to use a nylon brush, it works just fine. All right, that's it. Really quick and easy. And that little pattern isn't much to look at, but it's just a buggy little fly that produces really well.